Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista. Today I have a fun canning project planned, and it is a canning project that I have been honestly waiting all year to make. We are going to make one of my favorite condiments. We are going to make some sweet and sour sauce. This is just like a tomato with pineapple and green peppers. It is so delicious if you cube up pork or chicken and then you just mix it with it and then put it over top of some rice. It is just delicious. And we are actually down to only 2 pints left, so we are going to get some of that canned up today. First of all though, we need to go outside and pick some peppers because this recipe calls for green peppers. I'm not sure if I actually have any green peppers. I may just have red peppers because we honestly don't like green peppers, so I've just been letting all of my California Wonders go all red, and I haven't been out here in a while. So let's go out and check and see what we have available. These turkeys are driving me insane lately. Look at how big they're getting. They are huge. And they are so very loud. They have already been fed today, fed a lot, but they are so noisy. Those guys we actually have scheduled to get processed in a couple weeks. We do the processing ourselves. So we're gonna do those in a couple of weeks and get some turkey in the freezer, which I'm very excited for. So it is kind of a little bit of a jungle out here. Definitely everything is really dead, and I just need to come out and kind of do a final harvest. This guy right here is very close to being harvested. This is my Tabasco peppers, and there's so many yellow ones on here. I'm trying to wait until they go red. And then we got a lot of yellow peppers. I actually need to get out here. Hopefully you can see because of the sun. Need to get out here and harvest some of these jalapenos right here. That is not what we're out here to get. We are out here to get some peppers. So I need to actually go grab a basket first. I finally got a new microphone, so hopefully it's working and you guys can actually hear me. But, oh my gosh, these weeds. This is actually not a weed. This is an asparagus plant and it needs to get cut because it's dead now. Some of them have a little bit of sunburn on them, but that's fine. We can just cut those away. Oh, we do have some green peppers in here. Yay. We got one green one. Perfect. Got some rotten ones too. Okay, that should be good. We have some red ones that are kind of half green, and we got one green one. So that'll be good for today. I actually need to get outside and amend some of my garden beds because I need to get my garlic planted. I usually plant it at the end of October, first week of November. I like to do it kind of right around our first frost, and that's usually when we get one. So I need to get out here and get these beds kind of amended and ready to do kind of my last planting of the year, of the 2024 year. Before I get this canning project started, I actually need to put away some of this pasta sauce. I have it just sitting here. I canned this yesterday afternoon. These are ready to go onto the pantry shelf. What I like to do first is I like to take the rings off, clean them nice and good, and then we'll put them on the shelf. And this is actually where my pasta sauce goes, and I am gonna have to move some stuff around because I don't have enough room for my new stuff to go. So if you are a longtime follower, you will know that I have recently rearrange my canning shelf. I actually moved some shelving around so that I could fit my 5-gallon storage buckets underneath that. I used to have them underneath this table, and I hated the aesthetic look when you walked in the door. So now I have them hiding under there, and I was able to actually make this shelf more efficient, and I freed up a whole bunch of space down there because we still have one more big canning project to do. I still need to get my green enchilada sauce made. That one is completely full also. I just love how full my pantry looks at the end of gardening season. It is just so full of yummy, nutritious food that we are going to get to enjoy all through the cold winter months, which is really exciting to me. That's one of my favorite things to look at is my pantry. I think what we'll do is we will get started with the sweet and sour sauce, and while that is in the canner, then we will get that pasta sauce put away. I think what I'm gonna do is actually take my pasta sauce that's up here and I'm gonna move it down to this empty space down here, because then I can not have to worry about double stacking. Double stacking is kind of, I guess, a very, very sensitive topic. I have done research, and in my research I have read that if you have a good thick piece of cardboard in between your canning products, you can safely double stack them. You do not want to take the jars and stack like this without anything in between it, because I have heard that that can cause a false seal. Now, I don't know how the cardboard prevents that from happening, but I have never had a seal fail from this. Like, I've never opened a can and found that it was falsely sealed. I can only say that you do you, and you do what you feel comfortable doing in your own home. I am fairly confident that this is perfectly safe to do as long as I have a thick layer of cardboard in between it, so I do double stack. But when it comes to things like the quart size jars, I usually don't like to double stack them, even though I have my tomato sauce double stacked. That is not ideal. I don't really like to do that. So I may actually end up moving my tomato sauce down to here as well. So I think what we'll do is once we get that sweet and sour sauce in the canner, then we'll come in here and we'll do a little quick rearranging of everything. So what I need to do is actually grab some diced tomatoes from back here. Now this recipe calls to use 4 cups of tomatoes peeled and chopped. My tomatoes right here are not quite ripe enough yet to use. I have a whole bunch of diced tomatoes that I actually canned 2 years ago, I think, and I really need to get them used. So we are just going to use diced tomatoes. It honestly makes this project go by way quicker because I don't have to worry about peeling these tomatoes first. Earlier last week, I actually canned up some diced tomatoes. I had some that I really had to get canned up or preserved, and I wasn't quite ready to make the sweet and sour sauce. So I just did a really quick batch of canning the diced tomatoes, and I actually filmed it for you guys. So what I'll do right now is I will include that clip right here to show you guys how I can up my diced tomatoes. And then when we get back, I will have everything all prepped and ready to start this project. To get started making the diced tomatoes, what we want to do is just put a little X's in the bottom of the tomato. This allows the tomato to peel a lot better when you put it into the hot water. The other thing I want to do is just make sure I'm taking out any of the bigger vines. Now, I wasn't too concerned with like the little blossoms at the end of the tomato because I was going to be cutting those away anyways, but any of the really big sticks, I wanted to remove those off of it, like this one right there. So I have a large pot of water in the background, and we are just going to bring that pot of water to a boil. The other thing I actually wanted to let you know is this guideline or this recipe is in one of the Ball canning books, and I will leave that linked for you guys in the video description. It's just, I use that as a reference every time I do this, just to kind of tell me what processing times I need to have. So once those tomatoes are starting to peel, we're gonna take them out. It usually takes about 30 seconds, and we're gonna immediately put those into some ice cold water. We want to have that water really cold so that it can stop the cooking process. You're not cooking these tomatoes, you're just trying to skin them. So once they sit in that ice water, I usually let them sit for about 3 minutes. After the 3 minutes, the skins literally just come right off of them. So I'm just gonna peel all of the tomatoes and set them aside. At this point, you can decide how you want to actually can them. You can can them whole, just make sure you're taking that inside stem off of them, or you can crush them and can them that way. I like to quarter them up and just put them into really large chunks. These tomatoes are so versatile. Like, I use these usually when I'm making like a chili, anything that calls for tomatoes in the winter when you don't have access to fresh tomatoes. These diced tomatoes literally hold that summer taste in them. So it's just such an easy thing to do, just to save that summer taste. So we're gonna get these canned up, and we are going to leave 1/2 inch of head space in these. You kind of wanna really squish the tomatoes in, because it may look like these jars are really full, but you will see when I take them out of the canner that all of the moisture goes to the bottom of the jar and you're not left with a lot of tomatoes in there. So just really make sure you're packing them in. So now once we get to the 1/2 inch headspace, what we're gonna do is top it off with boiling water. Because we're not dry canning these, we are going to add some water to it. It does make a difference with processing time. If you don't add any extra water to these, you need to can these at 80 minutes. But because we are topping these off with water, we can safely can these for 40 minutes. So we're just gonna add the water, debubble, and then readjust any of the water so that we have that 1/2 inch headspace. Once we get these jars all filled, we are going to clean the rims really good, and then we're going to put our lids on and our rings to fingertip tight. We're going to put them into our water bath canner, and we're going to set the timer for 40 minutes. Now you want to make sure that these jars are covered with at least 1 inch of water if we are water bath canning them. So I'm using my Presto countertop canner. I love this thing. It just makes water bath canning and just pressure canning so easy. So once the 40 minutes is up, it will beep, tell us we're good to take them out. And these are what they look like after they are done canning. They're just so beautiful. So we have mostly everything all prepped. We are going to be doubling this recipe because, like I said, it's one of my favorite recipes and I just like to have a lot on my pantry shelf. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use 4 quarts of our diced tomatoes. Then we're going to use 2 pints of my home canned pineapple. And then in a minute, we're gonna cut up our peppers into nice big chunks. Then on a couple videos ago, I actually pre-prepped a whole bunch of onions and just diced them up. So we're gonna use that. We're gonna use some ThermoFlow. If you do not have ThermoFlow, the recipe actually calls to use clear gel. I just have this because this is what's available for me. We're gonna use some liquid aminos and we're gonna use some white distilled vinegar. The other thing that I got prepped is I have my water bath canner here, and we have some pint-sized jars in here, and those jars are just gonna get warm. That is the other reason I love this recipe, is because it's a water bath canning recipe and I love water bath canning. I just find it is really simple and it's almost like a no-brainer because you can walk away while it's doing its thing. I find with pressure canning, I'm kind of babysitting it a little bit. Even though I have a weighted gauge on mine, I still tend to just, you know, feel like I have to check in on it more often than water bath canning. So we're gonna get our peppers all chopped up, and I'm not too concerned with using some red peppers in this. It's perfectly fine. Any type of pepper you have available honestly would work in this. So we're just gonna give these a quick little rinse off first. The recipe calls for 2 cups of a chunked green pepper. You want to actually leave these in pretty big pieces because you want the pepper in the sauce and you want it to be, like, you want to know it's a pepper. Now, if you have pickier eaters, I would definitely recommend maybe slicing the peppers a little bit smaller, but when they're cooked in this sauce, it is a very sweet sauce. The other thing with this recipe is it does have sugar, and it does have quite a bit of sugar in it. Steven is actually not a fan of eating green peppers. He's not actually a fan of peppers in general. And I have found when cooked in this sauce, because there's so much sugar in it, he actually doesn't mind them. So if you don't have picky eaters, you can cut them like I do, and I cut them in nice big chunks. But if you do have more pickier of eaters, you can always cut them in smaller chunks, or you could even potentially omit them. We probably have more than we need, but that's okay. We'll just freeze whatever extra we have. And then I'm just gonna give these things to the chickens. They love them. Not a lot of food goes to waste here. Whatever we don't eat, I either give to the chickens or the turkeys, or if it's something that they can't really have, then I will put it in my compost and compost it. Definitely try to limit the amount of waste that we have. Okay, so here is the little sunspot that we have on this, guys. So we'll just cut that off. Again, give that to the chickens. I also like to try to get out as much as these, I don't know what these things are called, the the inside line, like the ribs in here. I don't know what the official name is, but I also like to get those out. I am not a fan of the taste of those. This one does not look the best in, so I'm just gonna give this half to the chickens. When canning, you kind of want to make sure that you're using stuff that isn't really blemished, because it is going through the canning process and you are going to be storing it. You want to make sure that kind of those vegetables are at their peak of their freshness and not really moldy or anything like that. Okay, I just gave these a really quick rinse just because I am not a fan of having the seeds in it, so I just wanted to rinse them off. So this is how big I chopped them. Like, they're pretty big slices. I like to have, like I said before, I like the peppers to be seen in there. I guess also if you have picky eaters, if they are cut larger, then they are easily to be picked out. I remember this when the kids were younger. I would always cut things larger so that if they didn't like them, for instance, onions. My son was not a fan of onions when he's little. Actually, he's still not a fan of them, to be honest. But I used to cut them up really, really big, and then that way I could just pick them out for him. I didn't have to hear, I don't like onions. I just picked them out before he even had a time to say he didn't like them. I like to still have the option of cooking with the onions, but they were just really easy to get picked out. So I guess you could do that same with these peppers. I also know that it's good to let kids taste things even if they don't like them, because they need to experience new tastes. But also back then, having smaller children, having a lot to do, working full time, I just didn't have the time to sit there and try to let him expand his taste buds at that moment. I just cooked it so that he could just pick them out and we could go on about our night, not having a fight. I guess it's the whole philosophy of pick your battles, and at that time in my life, I was not picking the battle of making him try to expand his taste buds and experiment with onions. We just took them out. So this recipe does call to use canned pineapple because you need to actually use the juices from the pineapple. So if you're using like a fresh pineapple, I don't know how that would work. I guess you would have to have some pineapple juice. But what we're gonna do right now is, this is my home canned pineapple and I already have it chunked up. Sorry, my plant's in the way here. Hanging right here, and it has this beautiful drapey thing, but when I'm filming, this always gets in the way. So this is usually what you guys end up seeing. I just tuck it in here like this when I'm filming. But right now it really wants to just be in the way, and I don't appreciate it. Let's try it over here. That's better. Okay, so because we're using my home canned pineapple, I already have this pre-cut, so I don't need to dice it, but we are going to drain off the juice. And again, because we're doubling it, we are going to use two 20-ounce cans of pineapple. And I did not pick a big enough strainer. Tend to do that. So I just caught all of the juice in this bottom bowl here. Other thing we'll do is get our tomatoes open. Now, the one thing I do want to do with these tomatoes is I do want to drain off some of the liquid off of these, because I do not need this in the cooking process. So what we need to do next is we need to get 8 cups of tomatoes in here, because we are doubling it. If you are doing the recipe just as it is, it's only 4 cups. But we're gonna double it. I'm just trying to do this over the sink because these are kind of leaking everywhere. Okay, so there's 4 cups. We have just under 8 cups, which is fine. And the other thing that I like to do is leave my pineapple in these size chunks. Again, I like having them like biteable in the sauce. We're gonna add our 2 pints of pineapple, and then we're just gonna leave this reserved sauce. And then next up, I want to add 2 cups of onions, actually 4 cups of onions. Go and see if I have any more in my freezer. Found a bag buried in my freezer. So we will add that. It's a little rock frozen, but that's okay. Just gotta break it up a bit here. And then we need 4 cups of the chunked peppers. This is about 4 cups, so we'll just add this all in. And then we are going to turn this on to about a medium high, and then we're going to bring it to a boil. It'll probably take a little while to come to a boil because we have the frozen onions in here. Look at how colorful this sauce is already. It's so good. I think what I want to do is actually add 1 more pint of tomatoes in there. just because we are using extra onions and a little bit of extra peppers, I feel like we need just a touch bit more of tomato in there. So I'm gonna add another pint of tomato. We'll just get them drained. Still some moisture in there, but that's okay. Add them to the pot. There, that's better. This is at a boil now. So we are gonna add our other ingredients. I'm just gonna turn it down just a tad bit because it is boiling pretty hard. So the sugar in this, you can put how much you like to taste. So the original recipe calls for 2 cups. So we're gonna do 4 cups. It does say that if you wanna reduce that sugar, you definitely can. I remember using the full 2 cups last time I made it because I just did a single recipe. But again, it is per taste. So if you don't wanna put quite that much sugar in it, you don't have to. If you put that sugar in it and you find that it needs a little bit more, then you could definitely add more into it. So we're gonna add 4 cups again because we're doubling. Remember how I said this recipe was definitely on the sweeter side? Then we're gonna add 8 tablespoons of a liquid aminos. You can use a soy sauce if you would like, or coconut aminos. And then we're gonna add 4 cups of a vinegar. Original recipe calls for 2 cups. And hopefully I have a big enough pot. Okay, and then we'll turn this back up to a medium high and bring this back up to a boil. Just wanna make sure you stir all that sugar in so that nothing is sticking on the bottom of the pot. Next up, we're gonna take our Thermogel, or if you're using clear gel, you're gonna do that. Recipe calls for 1/2 cup, so we're gonna add 1 cup, a little over 1 cup, and then another 1 cup of sugar. We're just gonna mix this together. And then what we want to do now is take a reserved pineapple juice and we're just going to stir this into this mixture. We want to make sure that everything is really good and combined and try to get out as many clumps as possible. We're at a boil now, so we're going to take that sugar, Thermogel, clear gel, whatever you're using, pineapple juice, and we're going to stir it into this. You want to make sure you get everything out of this bowl. Use a spatula. And it does get pretty thick pretty quickly, so you just want to kind of keep stirring it. Once this gets really, really thick, we're going to remove this from the heat. Now, I did use a little bit of extra tomatoes in here, so I might need to come in and add a touch bit more Thermogel because you want to get this pretty thick. And right now it's pretty runny, but we'll just see how it turns out first before I go and add any more. Actually, it's thickening up pretty good. We won't need to add more. I'm definitely pushing the envelope with this size pot. I'm right on the edge. Should have used a bigger one. I always do that. I miscalculate how much space I'm gonna actually need in something. This is starting to thicken up really good. I think that's good. I think that's thick enough because we're still gonna can it, so it'll thicken up a little bit more too in the cooking process. Okay, we're gonna get it off the heat. This again is something that you kind of make your own judgment with on how thick you actually want it. This consistency right here, that's good for me. I like it to be a sauce because I want it to evenly coat the meat that I'm cooking it in, and if it's honestly too thick, I find it doesn't coat it good enough, but this is a nice consistency here. We're gonna get this canned up now, but you wanna make sure that your jars are very, very hot that you are using because you've seen how hot this sauce is. If you add that hot sauce to a room temperature jar, you are most likely going to get a split jar and it will explode. You wanna make sure that your jars are as close to the temperature as the sauce that you're putting it in. You also want to make sure your water is the same temperature in your canner. So everything has to be hot at this point. I just took the jars out of the canner. So I'm going to get this ladled in here and we're going to leave 1/2 inch headspace. Like we did our applesauce in last week's video, you really want to make sure that you are just going to just the 1/2 inch headspace because again, siphoning, it will boil over a little bit, so you don't want to go past that 1/2 inch. What I'm doing now is just cleaning the tops of these jars, just making sure that there's no sticky stuff on top of them. Okay, let's get our lids on these, ones that we just cleaned. And then we will get our rings on to fingertip tight. And then we'll get them put into our water bath canner. So we have both of our canners full. I just pressed the go button on that. So this is now coming to a full rolling boil. I have the jars covered with at least 1 inch of water. So now because it's at a full rolling boil, we're gonna set our timer for 30 minutes. We are doing pints, so it is at 30 minutes. I honestly don't know what the time would be if you were gonna can these in quarts. You would definitely have to do your own research on that one because I have no clue what it would be. Google would be wonderful for that. I had no clue what I wanted to do for supper tonight, and we had a little bit left over, so this is not up to the 1/2 inch headspace, so I can't safely can this jar. So we're gonna have this for supper tonight, and what I'll do is I will show you guys how I use this to make the chicken meal. So I'm gonna go and get some chicken breasts out of the fridge and get those defrosting so that we can have those for supper. So I'm just putting my rings away. Everything is good in here. Let's get into this pantry, and we gotta get these jars of pasta sauce out. These ones. We'll get these lids off. Pasta sauce. Sometimes when you make tomato products, the water tends to settle at the bottom, and that is perfectly fine. That usually happens. You can just shake it up like this and it's fine. This is just some pasta sauce that I canned yesterday. I let it cook down overnight. I didn't actually do a video showing you guys, but maybe next year I'll do a video showing you guys because this was the last batch that I needed to can for this year. Unfortunately, I didn't film it. I just wanted to kind of get it done and just quickly did the project. But I am gonna get it put away with you guys though. Okay, so I really wanna make sure that I'm cleaning it good because I did get a little bit of slicing on them. So there is a little bit of sauce, and I do not wanna put that in the pantry. And I've already checked all the seals and they all sealed. So I'm just gonna rinse them off really good. Make sure, just do this again, that just double checks the seal. We're gonna get our new pasta sauce put right here. And I want to keep my older stuff because I'm going to use this first. I canned this in August. We go through a lot of pasta sauce, so I want to make sure that I always have a lot on my shelf. I have none left from last year. We ate through everything that I canned last year, so I always like to make sure that I have a good stock of this stuff on my pantry shelf. With that spot where the pasta sauce was before, that is where we will put our sweet and sour sauce. These are just 2 jars from last year. So we'll just put those here. Probably have to double stack that. Now, my only concern with moving my tomato sauce down there is that the tomato sauce looks exactly like the pasta sauce. And if I have Steven come in and grab me the pasta sauce, he might actually grab the tomato sauce. So I don't think I want to put it beside each other. I think it's fine for now. With that blank spot right there beside the pasta sauce, I'm actually gonna put the green enchilada sauce that we're gonna probably can next week. So yeah, we'll leave that blank. And for now, I guess I'll just leave my tomato sauce double stacked. I just don't like doing it with the quart size jars because they're so much bigger, and I just don't want them to topple over because they're so much more bigger, but it's fine. I'll just hope that doesn't happen. The other thing that I'm going to be doing that a lot of you actually commented on in my pantry tour that I shot at the beginning of this season is I'm definitely going to be putting up some type of barrier across here. We don't get earthquakes here in South Central Kentucky, but it's just accidents can happen. So I do want to have kind of like a protection. So I'm thinking about putting at least a bungee cord up against here so that if anything, you know, does get us shaken, then it'll kind of block it. Now that doesn't help with the double stack stuff, but at least everything will not fall over. Let's see how much time we have left. I have 7 minutes left on that canner. Our timer just went off, so I'm gonna turn the heat off on this. I'm gonna take the lid off of here and remove it from the heat. And then we are gonna set the timer for 5 more minutes. So you just wanna leave them rest here for 5 minutes, and then after the 5 minutes, we'll take them out and put them on our towel. The 5 minutes is up, so we're gonna get these out of the canner here and just get them resting. I'll show you guys what these look like. Look at that, oh, so good. Already starting to pop. We're just gonna let those rest for 24 hours, and then after the 24 hours, we'll do exactly what we did like with the pasta sauce, where we'll just take the rings off, clean it, and then put it on the pantry shelf. So that is gonna be it for today's video. I am gonna come back later though, tonight, and show you guys how I use that sweet and sour sauce, like how I prepare a meal with it. I just wanted to say my goodbyes now because I will be doing a voiceover for that meal, just showing you guys how I prepare it. I wanna thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys. We're gonna get started making our sweet and sour chicken. So I'm actually not using chicken in this recipe. I accidentally grabbed the wrong package out of my freezer, and I grabbed a package of turkey breast instead of chicken, but turkey works perfect in this recipe. In fact, I kind of like it most. It's one of my most favorite meats, so I like doing this with the turkey breast. But like I said at the beginning of the video, you can use pork, chicken, or turkey in this, and it works perfect. So you're just gonna take a little bit of oil and just get a bowl, like a medium-sized skillet, nice and seasoned with that oil. And then you're gonna add in your chopped meat. Once the meat starts to cook a little bit, I like to come in and then season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. And you just wanna make sure that you are getting this meat completely cooked through. You don't want any pink left. It has to be completely cooked. Once that meat is cooked through all the way, we're gonna come in and add our sweet and sour sauce. Now, this sweet and sour sauce is pretty thick, so I usually like to thin it out with about a 1/4 cup of water. It just kind of helps thin it so that it coats the meat evenly. But the other thing the water does is it also allows it to stretch a little bit further. So you can take 1 pint and really make a huge meal with just that 1 pint. I love this. All you have to do is just heat this through, and then this meal is completely done. So on the side, I made some edamame beans. These are actually edamame beans from my garden. I completely forgot to turn the camera on to film me putting the ingredients in the bowl. So all as I did to my edamame beans was I added probably about a tablespoon of sesame seed oil or sesame oil, about 2 tablespoons of a soy sauce. Then I added probably a teaspoon of rice vinegar, and then I just kind of eyeballed the chili paste there. I probably added about a tablespoon because we do like our edamame beans a little bit more spicier. Here's everything all put together, and this sauce is just amazing. This meal is just so much better than takeout, just tastes way better. So I made a little jasmine rice for us to have on the side, and it was just delicious. So I want to thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you next week.